So, long story to say, we need to do something. We have to make sure it's the right thing that we do. And so that's really where I want to move the last few minutes of this talk of what is the right thing that we do. We realize it's important. It's important for us to be involved and not just sit idly by. And again, I think the Bible gives us some great direction on what we can do and what our challenges are. And I want to wrap up with that. A couple examples of people, one from the Bible, one from history, who have sensed that call on their life to have an impact through political work that I look up to and respect. One was Nehemiah, who was called on out of service for the king to go and rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. Just an incredibly dangerous task, difficult task, tough timing, and yet went ahead and did it. Someone much more recent that I look up to greatly and is one of my heroes in the work that I do in the state Senate and hopefully in Congress is William Wilberforce, who served over in England a few years ago and was really the number one voice for decades fighting against the slave trade, of standing up and saying life is valuable. By us doing this, it is undercutting the fact that life is valuable because God has created all of life. These examples, a couple of things that they have in common, Nehemiah and William Wilberforce, is they saw the decay that was around them. They grieved over it. It grieved their hearts. They took it personally that things were decaying. And that's how Chris and I feel. We see the decay around us and we grieve over it. I grieved as I listened to our governor talking about stealing money from children's cancer centers until he could get the contribution cashed in his bank account. That grieved me, that people would be to that point, the decay that it takes to get there. Then these men, they prayed and fasted and sought the Lord. We have a God who cares and acts, and he wants us to care and act as well. We seek to impact our world where God has placed us, and then they persevered. They kept working at it. I think especially at Wilberforce, where literally it was decades, where he year after year after year, where he was the only voice, and little by little he was picking up momentum. And then finally it came together, and he was blessed to be able to see all of that work come to fruition, where he was able to see a stop to the slave trade there. Through all of that, even at the success, whether it was Nehemiah or William Wilberforce, they gave all the glory to God. That it wasn't something that they achieved, but it was something that God achieved through them. And that's really my prayer too, is that I'll be an instrument that God can use. A couple other people I look up to, John the Baptist, who did so much to prepare the way for Jesus. And yet when his disciples, John the Baptist's disciples, were questioning this new guy that was coming on the scene, that people were starting to leave John to go follow Jesus. And what John said in John 3:30, he said, "He must increase, I must decrease." And I really think of that as a politician. How many politicians are out there saying, it's tough, in politics, we do need to talk about ourselves and our resume and who we are. But really, ultimately, I want to do my best, not for my own glory, but ultimately to glorify God in the work that I do. So, one other side that has a big impact on me that I've seen over the last years is that we are called to be salt and light in our world. Salt and light. Salt was a preserving agent. It was a key thing. In fact, I learned this, that the word salary really comes from the root word salt. So people even got paid for work with salt. So salt was something that was very important because they didn't have refrigeration. It was a preserving agent of food, of meat. And if meat rotted, it wasn't the meat's fault. It was the salt's fault for not working. It wasn't rubbed in properly, or it was ineffective. It was so ineffective sometimes that they just throw it on the street to be trampled on. And sometimes it went so far as the salt was so ineffective that it wasn't even good to be thrown on a manure pile. That was another thing they would do with salt, is to help it break down the manure pile. And sometimes it's so ineffective it wasn't even good for that. And I think sometimes our lives can be so ineffective that it's really not even good for being thrown on the streets to help make the streets safe as we're driving. We need to recognize that we also have dual citizenship. So along with being salt and light, we need to work as much as we possibly can here to be that salt and light, but recognize ultimately our home is in heaven, and we're working towards that, and we're called to be faithful in that. C.S. Lewis, another guy that I look up to a lot, said, if you read history, you will find that the Christians who did the most in this present world were precisely those who thought the most of the next. It is since Christians have largely ceased to think of the other world that they have become so ineffective in this world. So we should set our eyes on becoming strong in our faith in Jesus Christ. That recognition, again, the worldview that we are valuable and all life is valuable, whether it's at the beginning of life or end of life, all life is valuable because God has created that life and made it valuable. It is only as he increases and we decrease that his light will shine through us, lighting up a dark and lost world. and that the salt of his glory and grace will preserve the world and for generations that will follow us.